Good evening. Back in London, back from London actually, because you guys are all over the world. And welcome back to our Facebook Live conversation. This time, very interesting, juicy subject is ways to generate income in order to fund your dream, or while you fund your dream.
Yeah, so obviously we talk about a lot of things, and as freelancers, this is something that we experience and have to work through quite a lot, and a topic that we talk about quite a lot, and we just thought it might be useful to share some of our experiences and some of our tools and tips to help other people out there who are pursuing a goal or a dream that requires, like most people, to have a certain level of income just to live, to pay your rent, or if you're fortunate enough to own somewhere, to pay your mortgage and to run a car if you need a car. So we thought, rather than just waste up the topic, and we talk about it a lot, we just thought we'd share it with you, and hopefully by the end of this there'll be some gems.
Yeah, we'll share some things that we personally do in our daily life, and things that we think are quite give you flexibility and time to pursue your goals while you still improve your cash flow, which our friends do. So everything is from personal experience, and but mainly
some things that we've become aware of that we necessarily don't do, but it's a really good way of generating income if it's something that you are. I think with all these things, you have to have an appetite for it. You have to like it or have a passion for it as well. I think
how do you still stay in the game or do jobs that are still inspiring to you? Which is, like in our case, it's acting. Let's just put it out there. It's acting, and for you it's writing and producing.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you still use other skills, doing other jobs that help you grow, improve, but cover, but they pay the bills, and it doesn't take you out of the game completely. Opposite side, it just improves your skill to be a better actor or better writer because it fulfills your life. So I think
obviously, we don't want to just for it to be around acting, because this could be somebody looking to start a cake shop or a catering business, or
exactly.
A mobile massage business. I mean, it's not just about acting, but we're freelancers. We're always I'm not really sure I like the word hustling, because especially if you work hard at your craft, and I'm a big believer at kind of getting very good at things like mastery, even though, and in the martial arts I'm a master, but I still see myself as a student. So I think it's always important to, on paper you're a master, but actually you're always a student. But I think I do think it's important to get good at things, and those things may service you in other areas. For instance, being able to coach as a way to make an income, to stay focused on, being available and ready for auditions, or having time to write, or putting together a production.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, shall we just start from the fact that you shouldn't be emotionally attached to things?
I think
which is very important in order to be more flexible.
Straight to it.
Straight to the subject.
I think being managing your emotional attachment to things is really important, especially when it's material things. So we were talking about we spend time in London and LA, and obviously production send us all over the world, but how do you service that? Because sometimes you're working on a project and requires you to be a local hire, which means you have to live there. And if you don't own a property in those places,
you rent,
and you say you're a local hire.
Yeah.
Right. So it's ways that you can make income from property, and not just being an owner of property. So if you're fortunate enough to own property, then great. You can use things like Airbnb.
Airbnb is a great example. So at the end of this video, we'll put links to how do you want to, things like how can you become a host on Airbnb, or how do you start using Airbnb in general if you never used it. But it's really great because it's not necessarily, you don't really need to own the property, but if you own it, it's amazing, good for you. But even examples, if you're renting a room in LA and you are traveling for jobs in Europe, you don't want to sublet that room. Obviously, you have to talk to the flatmates and to the landlord and ask for the permission, but it would be silly not to rent your property or place you're staying while you're abroad.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously all these things have to be, above board. We're not talking about doing things illegally. So, you don't have to own a property, but you could manage other people's properties who host on Airbnb, for instance. You could, if you're renting somewhere, you could have a straight up conversation with the landlord about you travel, and at times would it be possible to sublet your room or to the flatmates, or if you're moving in with somebody who owns a property and they're renting you a room or a couple of rooms, having that straight up conversation, when I travel, could I sublet that room? It's a way of covering your costs and possibly making an income.
And we have friends in our group of people who actually, they rented a bigger house than they needed just to become property managers of that particular place. So they pay less their rent, but they're finding roommates, they take care of the house, and in this will actually lower your monthly cost.
Yep. So again, this is just, I'm sure that you're sitting there now and you can think of a number of ways or not, but it's just to kind of open, if you're not emotionally attached to something that's your home and you're happy to rent that space when you travel, there are ways to do it. Short lets and long lets, and companies like Airbnb is a good example of how that can be done. Cars, another example. If you're not emotionally attached to just using your car, and I know firsthand, there are people who own a car in London, in LA, but during the week they don't need their car.
Yeah.
So during the week, their car is available via Turo, which is a wonderful app where you can put your car, and other people can use your car. It's fully insured, and there's a very thorough process to checking in and checking out your car. So Monday to Friday, your car is rented, and the weekend when you need your car, you have your car. The beauty of it is, I've actually met...
You used it, right?
Well, I've used it a few times, yeah, but I've met somebody who owns 4 cars. He leases 4 cars, and he rents those via the Tour app, and they pay for themselves and make him an income. So, there's another example of how...
It's great for cash flow.
Yeah.
Again, we'll put a link where you can read about Turo, you can become a user of Turo. And you said that in that particular case, when you were renting, somebody brought damaged car back.
Yeah, so
he was like, chilled.
Yeah,
the owner.
So I rented a medium kind of a medium, what we call, not a luxury car, a nice car, but just, like a RAV or a type like a Toyota. And when I was returning the car, Mercedes was also being dropped off, but it had been in a car crash. It was damaged. The front was quite badly damaged. And the lady who was returning it was in an absolute state, and the guy who was collecting it was just so chill, because fully insured. So for him, there was no emotional attachment. It just, these things will happen. And I'm fully covered. But again, when we put this up on YouTube, we'll share a bunch of links and you can explore it for yourself. And I think with some of the links that we share, you actually, if you do use it, I think you actually get some cash back.
Yeah.
Or some incentive to use it. So we will put those in the YouTube links.
And the guy with the car, he even said that even if it's going to be in repair for like 2 weeks to be repaired, he'll still be paid by the company because the insurance pays.
Loss of earnings, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really good, and that was, I think, his main business. He was completely on it, but at the same time, it gives him flexibility and do other things that he likes. I'll be back to the property example, which is like similar subject to cars. Do you remember that time when we were shooting in LA on a project and we were in this amazing location, massive villa in Hollywood? I think it was my first time seeing a property leveraged like that. They literally, so this property belongs to a famous musician group, right?
Yeah, it's owned by a very famous band group.
Yeah. And they just own this property, and what happened is every single level of this villa and every room has a key, digital key lock on it, and they rent every single room separately. Like they rented to our film production, and they had two people staying at the house, living there full time. And then while we were filming, there were several people coming in and out, checking out the property for events, like I don't know, weddings, engagements,
an
stuff
amazing
like that.
view over Los Angeles, and it was a very big house. And so, but you know, talking to the woman that was managing the property, it has expenses, and so because the group are very rarely in LA, they just rent it to cover all its costs, and it actually makes an income. It obviously pays her salary as well. But that was interesting to see that a film was being shot. 2 people were living there, and there were people being toured
In and out.
for parties and weddings.
Events, yeah.
But again, it's, you know, obviously they bought a property, it's an investment, and they're just working out ways that they can service the debt and also make some income. So again, something to think about.
But I was really impressed by the lady, the property manager, because that wasn't her main job, but she loved doing it and she loved interacting to people. So if you guys have appetite for that, you could start also like developing that skill of property management, which is it's not necessarily to be your property, it can be a villa. In this case she was a property manager of a big villa in Hollywood, but it's a great skill to have, and it's fun and you just meet all these people and work on events. And
yeah, I think you know, again, what I was saying earlier, the reason we're just doing this is to share some of our experiences, some of which we've done or are doing ourselves, and some of which we've just come across and we're just like, wow, that's a really good idea, and if I had the appetite for that, I would spend time doing that. And one of the things that, you know, I'm seeing more and more is buying and selling. So people using things like eBay and Facebook Marketplace and stuff to buy things and sell things and make a really good living off it. But it's obviously, I'm assuming, because I've not done it, but I'm assuming it's quite time consuming. But if you know what you're buying, you know, you buy something for £20 knowing you can sell it for £40.
Or you recondition the item. We're doing it right now. We're buying from eBay some things for our baby, which is gonna be soon with us. So we're just shopping online. We go to the shop and see, okay, we like this particular item. I wonder, do they have it on eBay? And there are companies who actually are so aggressive on buying from private people and then recondition.
Small businesses buying, for instance, you know, push chairs, and they tidy them up, they professionally clean them, and they sell these things that go for about £1,000 in the shop for £300-400, and that's, you know, when something is fully functional, is clean and is well presented, you're sort of thinking, do I want to spend £1,000 or would I go and just spend 400? But I can imagine there's a margin in there of something, I don't know, between 100 and 150 pounds. So, and I'm looking at these particular people and I'm seeing that they're churning out a lot. So, you know, another just awareness is that you know you can. There's a really good speaker, Gary Vee, and he talks about he started in the wine business, and he talks about you know, you can literally go out tomorrow with $100 or £100 and turn that £100 into £1,000.
Go to shops like TK Maxx, Marshalls, you know, in America, and buy.
But just even things like,
items.
You know, there are lots of websites like FreeCycle where people just don't want the hassle of physically having to get rid of something, but there's nothing wrong with it, and they give it away. So you can literally take this item that's worth £50, £100, £300, and put it on eBay tomorrow, put it on Marketplace tomorrow, and sell it for £300, and it's cost you time. So again, it's just not something that I've done, but it's something I'm fully aware of and know people who do it as a side business. Because here's the thing: as a freelancer, you know, I've worked with various caliber of actors, from hugely famous to the unknowns, and on every level, it's always amazing. So, you know, you're not the only one who's kind of like enterprising and commercial. I've worked with like major Hollywood stars who their side business is renovating and selling, you know, buying and selling properties, like literally whitewashing them and selling them. I've worked with A-list stars who their side business is landscape gardening. True. I mean, I'm not going to give names away, but I've found that really fascinating because I'm there in my trailer working on a few bits and pieces because I'm fully prepared for my job while I'm there. So I'm just hanging around. I've got 4 or 5 hours, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on my side business, and they're doing the same thing. You know, I remember walking past, and I can't give a name, but he shouted out to me as I was going past, and I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, really good, I'm just trying to close on this house. And we had this little conversation, and then it transpired. He was spending most of his time on set trying to buy a property while finishing another property, and him and his friend have been doing this for years, and they're just whitewashing and selling properties. And I was like, wow, isn't that interesting? You know, even at that level, it's still, you know, if you want to call it hustling.
But it is fun. It's fun to do other things as well. It keeps your mind working and be more creative. And
absolutely.
It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna wait for that audition and wait for the phone call. It's those times are gone. You gotta be proactive. Create your own projects, create opportunities, do side jobs in order to improve your skills in any way.
Yeah, and there's no. It's funny because there seems to be a stigma that only comes from the person, I think, because it's like, you know, if you say, for instance, I'm an actor, but you're not acting at the moment, you know, because not everybody gets the opportunity to do what they love as often as they like to, because, you know, I'm not on a production every week. I can go months without an audition. I can go months without being on a job. And what do you do in that time? You know, for sanity, to pay your bills. I'm very grateful. I grew up in the martial arts, and so I have an extensive background in that side. So, you know, obviously I use those skills. I'm a trained coach. I'm a trained life coach. I also do performance and business coaching. I've worked with corporates.
You work with several people, like royalty, celebrities.
Yeah, I've worked with major stars. I've worked with, you know, senior politicians. I'm very sorry for the Brexit situation. It's nothing to do with me. But I, you know, the lovely thing is that I get to experience their world. They don't really get my time, I get their time. And it's funny because I think, you know, when you coach.
And there was business coaching, life coaching.
Performance, career, personal, coaching. And then on the other side I coach martial arts, kickboxing, you know, fitness, you know.
Well, you created 2 platforms. One is for life coaching, which is seemycoach.com.
Oh, we're gonna plug now. seemycoach.com. And then personal training.
Personal training, which we mentioned in other videos, which is because of your skills.
Yeah, but again, these are kind of pick up and put down things that, you know, that you can do. So leaning into like your strengths, like Silvia speaks 5 languages, so you know, translating,
which I worked in television programs when they needed a translator, so I didn't necessarily need to be the actress, but I could work with a production as a translator, as a host, translating for big events, big international events as well, which I loved it. It was a lot of fun meeting crazy people from around the world. So the advice, what comes from this conversation is just to lean into your skills and leverage of them. It would be a shame not to leverage of your amazing skills that you improved since you were like, what, 5 you started?
Yeah, I think you always have to, you know, so we're talking about funding the dream. So how do you create an income while you're still pursuing, you know, your goals and dreams? And so, you know, this isn't the kind of way of just like self-promoting. It's like what we're saying is we're using ourselves as examples. Like, look, it could be the fact that you're just a really good people person, you know. So hosting work, you know, sometimes just selling time. You know, there are lots of individuals in business that just need hands on deck. They need somebody for a day, a week, a couple of days. But it's interesting when you start to broaden your horizons and what could I do whilst I'm pursuing this goal. So I'm available at the drop of a hat to go over here. Good example, Uber driving. Uber. I mean, what you know, manage your own diary. I can just switch on my phone. I've never done it, but I know people who do. They switch on their phone, they work for 3 or 4 hours, they switch off their phone, they go back to focus on writing or developing that computer game or that, you know, the post, you know, whatever that is they're working on the side, but they have a way of making an income. So there are great websites as well. So if you have skills, write this down. peopleperhour.com. Amazing to find professionals in all sorts of fields, from graphics to legal to IT, and
you found some people who worked for massive productions, like people who...
True story. So I was coaching a corporate company, and they had a huge budget for development of some new software, but they were finding it difficult to find the right. They were tendering it, and they were finding it very difficult to find the right company to do the work for them. But they were in that tendering process, so they were going to select somebody out of the 5 they were seeing. And I was working with 2 of the main guys, and I just said, "Have you thought about?" Because they told me what they were looking to do, and I said, "Have you thought about finding, just a really experienced freelancer to do that for you in-house? I'm assuming it would work out a hell of a lot cheaper." So this is about £200,000-300,000 piece of work, and I just said that check out these 2 sites. Because I write, so I found a really good illustrator for my graphic novels.
Which are the websites again? People per hour.
People per hour and freelancer.co.uk. But there's also Fiverr.com. There's a whole bunch of them. But this particular company went out and just took a look, saw a few interesting people, got into a discussion, and ended up working with a guy who had been so senior at some major companies, including Sony, who came in and did the job for him for under £70,000. I think it was about £45,000.
Wow.
Plus he had to, because it was quite a big piece of work, he had to bring somebody else into it to support him. But the person they got doing the job was, an expert in his field, but just decided, I don't want to make that journey into London anymore. I just want to work for myself and pick and choose what I do. So, that was just, them going outside the box of their normal way. Because I just said, hey, have you thought about, looking into just working with an individual rather than a company? And again, I'm not suggesting that's right or wrong, but it did save them, quite a bit of money.
Yeah, at least 150,000.
Yeah, and for the guy, I'm not sure what the breakdown is of margins when you're working for a company and how you're paid, but I'm assuming that's a nice earner for somebody who's got no overheads apart from his time.
Yeah.
And his experience and expertise. So again, leaning into your skills. I know people who retrained to do massage, and so there are companies like Urban Massage where it's just like Uber.
I've never heard of that one.
Yep. It's just
used it in LA.
I've used them in London and LA. It's like a different name in LA, but you have an app on your phone, and if you're the practitioner, you have an app on your phone. And it's a way of earning, as and when you want, by turning your phone on, setting your availability, and doing a couple of massages a day, and earning well, and then going back to what it is you're trying to do. Because again, this conversation is all about funding the dream. How do you? Because it's not nice not to have money. It's not nice to tie yourself up in something because you think that you have to do a full-time job, and then.
Which doesn't give you flexibility, and also maybe you hate it.
Yeah, and then
so that's why we're suggesting to lean into the skills that you like, that you want to develop, or you have already, and just leverage on them.
Yeah, and sometimes these, you get so caught up in, and I've seen it firsthand. You get so caught up in this job because you are accountable and you're responsible, and you've got 40-50 hours a week to do.
So you give up on your dream.
Well, you don't give up, but it's just not having the energy, like the energy to come back and then spend a couple of hours, on what it's yours. So what happens is, it starts to slip away. And I've worked with lots of people who have regret because they will, they'll communicate it to me as taking the easy road. It's never an easy road. Giving up on a dream and a passion is a really, really hard thing. But
it probably is like settling, getting into your comfort zone, having a monthly pay. It's not for everybody to be a freelancer and go to unknown field of what is going to be the next project or next opportunity. So many people just get stuck in that comfort zone and don't give up. And
well, even if you are employed, because there is some people like to they know what they're earning every month. They know they've got holiday pay and obviously sick pay as well.
And that's great. if it makes you happy, before work for that company, as long as you're happy, that's wonderful.
And that still doesn't stop you having a bit of a sideline. So if you wanted to, you know, some of the things we talked about, you could also do while you're working, you know, as an employee. As freelancers, I mean, for over 20 years, I've never known what I'm going to earn in a year. And that's always been a bit scary, risky, but exciting. I never know where I'm going to be. Scary, risky, exciting. But it forces me to be proactive. It forces me to be enterprising, and it forces me to be commercial. And I've done lots of stuff. There are things like there's a luxury gym in London that opened in 2001 that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for me. Hello everybody at Kicks Gym. If you remember me, I'm the person who made it happen.
You created it.
Yes, and I'm very proud of it, and some of the people that I hired are still there, still running the club. And that was, you know, an ambition and a focus and a challenge, and, you know, at the time that took up a lot of my time and attention, and I loved it. And people are still working there, and, you know, I don't own it, but it was a wonderful thing to have done. And then you find ways to sell your knowledge or your creativity or your imagination. It's not just about physically selling a massage or a personal training session. There are ways that, what I'm saying is, really have a look at what you're good at and what you enjoy, and I'm sure there's a marketplace for it.
Or also, maybe if you want to work in the theatre, maybe you want to consider something working backstage to see how is the theatre work. Or if you are a writer, maybe you want to be an assistant to a publisher, just to see that world, to explore it. Or I have a friend now, she wants to get into the casting she want to become a casting director, and she doesn't know how to get in. It's like, why don't you just go to some film schools and start casting for short films for students and get that skill? And maybe then you move to paid jobs, you know, or get some paid internships in a casting office, which is you're learning and you're developing your skill, and then you can eventually will open your own casting office.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well, you know, you just have to start. Whatever it is, you just have to start. And you know, if you want to be a casting director, then go to some film schools and offer yourself up to cast their projects. Now you're a casting director. You know, I remember when I started out, you know, I was training as an actor, and I went to a couple of very, very kind of like independent short film auditions, and I didn't get any, and I just thought, there's got to be a quicker, easier way to get some experience. And I literally went to every film school in London, and with a one-page CV and a headshot, and just offered myself for free. I did over 40 student films, you know, in different areas. I was a fight coordinator. You know, I met some great people in that journey that are now doing some amazing stuff, and I still know a lot of them. You know, I was an actor in it, I was an extra. I didn't care. I just wanted to understand the business and get experience and exposure. And it went from, you know, not doing nothing to 2.5 years, 3 years of just like literally being really busy and really proactive. So, you know, that again, it's just taking that time to go, well, how can I make this happen? And not setting any, you know, breaking the rules. Like, if you ask people, they say, well, you need to go and do this, you need to do that. You know, if you want to be a director, direct something. On our phones now, you can make a film.
Yeah. I was just watching the comments that our friends are writing, like somebody regarding the things you sell on eBay. Somebody is actually mentioning they're selling on Amazon. They just
Peter Hart, old school friend. Guy
Hi, Peter.
Introduced me to magic. What a guy. He does a lot of business on Amazon.
Amazon Marketplace.
He buys lots of stuff from Tesco and Asda, etc., and flips it to them on Amazon. Great money to be made. It's amazing. Yeah, and I've become aware of that sort of stuff, and it's not something I'm doing myself, but I'm seeing.
But we're using it. We're literally buying from.
We're a customer.
Yeah,
you know?
We're a customer of those people who do it, and good for them.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I may do that in my free time.
Why not? Why not?
At least I need to sell all the things I don't use. So.
That's the other thing. It's like, you know, I think within all this, you know, questioning what do you really need, you know, because sometimes the consumption things are, you know, I think we overconsume sometimes. You know, do you need 50 t-shirts, 20 pairs of jeans? 15 pairs of shoes, etc., etc. It's like questioning, do we need all this stuff? So decluttering and selling a lot of this stuff as well. Like I've just spent time selling stuff that has been sitting around for years, and I'm talking about a lot of my music equipment, guitar amps and guitars, and I'm just excited that somebody's bought that and is enjoying it and hopefully write hit songs. But also, I've made some money for some stuff that was just a dust collector. So another way of generating some income is looking what you've already got and thinking, if you're
not using it,
sell it.
Which is good for your soul, just to have a little bit of empty spaces in your house, not just clutter everywhere, which is becoming a trend.
And again, it's that emotional attachment,
Yeah.
Material things are really not that important. I lost my father this year, which was heartbreaking. And, it really reminds you that, material things aren't important. Relationships are really important. The relationship you have with yourself, and the relationship you have with other people, and the footprint, the social footprint that you have in the world. How do you impact other people? What will they say about you, at your funeral? And some people say, well, it doesn't matter, you're dead. But
that's a strong question.
But
what are other people going to say to your funeral?
But I would hope that you've had an impact in the world. So that we digress slightly, but
but that's related to our next conversation for next Wednesday or Thursday, which is actually what are you doing? Our next topic is what are you doing with your time, money, and energy?
So we're going to go into the world of coaching, which is what I do.
It's all connected in a way, because even like what we spoke today, we spoke about different little things. We didn't go deep into them, otherwise we'll stay here for a couple of hours. But we just put some seeds into your heads. And also, like, being a freelancer, pursuing your dreams, you need a structure, right? You need a strong why, and you need to have a structure and map up your day.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, it should always be some form of plan and a map. What are you aiming at? And that changes. I said to Sylvia the other day, if I said to you to walk out of here, you're not allowed to use any GPS, you're not allowed to ask anybody, and you need to get yourself to Fulham, how would you get there?
Yeah, it will take many hours. I'll improvise, exploring.
Be really clear about where you're going, and then work out how you're going to get there. And then having structure to a day. When you're a freelancer and you're not having to be at the office at 8-9 o'clock in the morning, it's very easy to be in bed at 8-9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm a big believer is that you need to be out of bed and working on your day. Going to the gym, working on, whatever it is. For us, it's like, making sure that you're playing sides or scenes or accents and, physicality, whatever it is, that you're actually working on it. So you're ready no matter what. You're not getting the opportunity and then I'm getting ready. You're ready.
Yeah, just get up early and go for it.
So structuring your day and, and just having a plan, and that changes. So we're going to talk about time, energy and money. And lots will come around in that conversation, hopefully some value to the people out there.
If you guys have any questions, keep writing in the comments. We'll answer them next time, or we'll answer you on Messenger or comments, like general comments under the video. But hopefully this was helpful.
Yeah. And all it takes is just start. Whatever it is you want to do, just start. And remember, mediocre is not acceptable.
No.
A pleasure, and have a wonderful evening. And I hope there was at least one thing that you thought, that's interesting, that's useful.
Thank you for watching. Enjoy your evening.
Take care, guys.
Bye.